What up, yo? It's Marc with the Fantasy Knockout Fantasy Football Show. Today is Friday, September 16th. Follow the show on social media at Fantasy Knockout. Make sure to subscribe or on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. Let's get that 100 subscribers on YouTube. I'm excited for today's show. It is the Week 2 must-start players. Who are we feeling confident about this week and who are we worried about? Quick reminder, we got to drop it like it's hot. Reminder to check your waivers. Sometimes players on there are better values than who are available, so league mates might have dropped somebody good. Check that. Let's talk some news.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the news.
News with views. Quarterback Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. His owner, Jerry Jones, said the team won't place Dak with his thumb on injured reserve. It's okay to drop Dak if you need to. If you have an IR spot, put him in the IR. Quarterback Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers. His head coach, Brandon Staley, said Justin's midsection, I think it's a rib, is okay, and it's not a lingering issue. They don't expect that. We're still waiting for MRIs and some more news to come out on that. He took a nasty hit in the fourth quarter of his game yesterday. Ken Walker, running back out of Seattle, he was downgraded to a limited for Thursday's practice after getting in a full session on Wednesday. He's still a hold for now. We're not dropping him. We're not starting him. We're just stashing him on our benches. Running back Latavius Murray from the New Orleans Saints. He was signed to the practice squad. This is a depth move. Kind of in the back of my mind, worried maybe about Alvin Kamara's not practicing and stuff. So we're going to monitor that a little bit more. So a lot of times teams don't make moves like this unless they're preparing for something else. Running back Marlon Mack was signed to the San Francisco 49ers practice squad. And then running back Ronnie Rivers was signed to the Rams practice squad. So those are just depth moves in my opinion. The Latavius one we're going to monitor a little bit more. Main event, must start players for week 2. And if I don't talk about your specific player you're looking for, please check out the latest rankings at fantasyknockout.com. Speaking of rankings, that's a little toot toot. I finished 29th in week 1 overall accuracy. So yes, did well, hit a goal. I want to get better this week. So let's get on to the quarterbacks. All right, the must start of the week for the quarterbacks is Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders. He struggled in week 1 as he posted 13.5 fantasy points while throwing for 295 yards, 2 scores, and 3 interceptions against the Chargers. This week he faces the Cardinals. Mahomes last week took the Cardinals defense to school, throwing for 360 yards and 5 touchdowns. Plus the Raiders threw the ball on 78% of their plays, the second most in the NFL. This game has a chance of being a high-scoring matchup. So go back to Carr in week 2. Then my stream of the week is going to be Matt Ryan of the Indianapolis Colts. The good news is his tenure with the Colts, it didn't start off with a loss. But no, he didn't get the win either. But at least he had his overtime. He was 32 of 50 for 352 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, with a passing slate high of 17 pass attempts of 10 plus yards.
Running backs.
My must-start running back, it's going to be A.J. Dillon of the Green Bay Packers. So I like the number 1 running back, Aaron Jones, in this game as well. But I also like Dillon, who outplayed Jones in week 1 with 91 yards on 10 carries and 6 targets. He earned both the team's carries inside the 5-yard line, one of which he converted into a 2-yard touchdown. So in 2 games against the Bears last year, Dillon had 26 carries for 130 yards and no touchdowns and 0 targets. This is an explosion spot for the Packers. And then my other co-star running back, or my other running back start of the week, is Darrell Henderson of the Los Angeles Rams. He not only got the start, but he dominated the workload in week 1. He played 82% of the snaps and saw 18 touches compared to just 3 for Cam Akers. He needs to be viewed as the Rams' lead runner. So in week 2, he faces the Falcons defense that allowed the 4th most fantasy points to running backs. Then my fade of the week is going to be Dameon Pierce out of Houston. He played just 28% of the snaps in week 1 with 11 carries and only 1 target, tallying just 39 yards and less than 5 fantasy points. It was a disappointing start to the season after what was a very promising preseason. This was in a game that played the entirety of overtime frame and one in which the Texans were playing with the lead, which is a positive game script for Pierce, and yet he saw just that little work.
Wide receivers.
My must-start wide receiver is going to be Christian Kirk out of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He and his big contract were running jokes by many in the offseason. I think I was one as well, but he looked well worth the investment in week 1. He was targeted a team-high 12 times and caught six of them for 117 yards. He also saw 142 air yards, the second most in the NFL behind only Devontae Adams. He clearly is a focal point of the Jags passing game and could quickly become an every-week option for fantasy managers. He is certainly in play as a wide receiver 2 in week 2 against the Colts, who allowed the second most fantasy points to wide receivers last year. My next wide receiver is going to be Julio Jones out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was not washed like many wanted to believe this offseason. In week 1, he reached a top speed of 20.62 miles per hour, the 7th fastest in the NFL. Jones was targeted 5 times, which may not sound like much, but he also had, but it was the second most on the Bucs. Jones will remain a focal point of the Bucs offense with Chris Godwin sidelined for the time being. He will run in 2 wide receiver sets with Evans, and Jones was clearly playing ahead of Russell Gage in week 1. My fade wide receiver of the week is going to be Kadarius Toney out of the New York Giants. He only played 7 snaps for the Giants in week 1. It was not due to him being injured. The team they just opted to bench their most explosive player. I don't know. While the hope is the talent will win out, there's no way he can be trusted. Hold on to Toney as he still has a lot of upside and he can get maybe a starter's workload, hopefully. But until we see that back in the rotation, he needs to be remained on your bench.
Tight ends.
My tight end must start of the week is Pat Freiermuth, the Muth of Luth. He was targeted 10 times, catching 5 passes for a team-high 75 yards. He finished with 12.5 fantasy points and was a top 6 tight end. He remains in play for week 2, even in a tough matchup against the Patriots, and the volume Freiermuth saw in week 1 is too good to ignore, so Freiermuth is worth starting until he proves otherwise. My fade of the tight ends is going to be Hunter Henry of the same game. He's on the Patriots. He was outperformed by his other counterpart, Jonnu Smith, in week 1. He was targeted 3 times, catching only 2 of them for 20 yards. He showed last year that when he does not catch a touchdown, he's going to be a disappointing for all fantasy purposes. Last season, he averaged fewer than 5 targets and 3 catches per game. Seeing that usage carry over to last week in week 1 was troubling. Additionally, Mac Jones is banged up at the moment, so we're going to leave Henry on the bench against a tough Steelers defense. Some stashes for next week. We're going to pick up these guys if you have that extra bench spot, only if available. We're going to look for Robbie Anderson out of Carolina. We're going to see if he can be Baker's number 1 target. He did amazing week 1. Romeo Dubs out of Green Bay. If Lazard's still out, we're gonna stash him, see if maybe he has that connection with Rodgers. And then Robert Tonyan of the same team of the Packers. Someone's gonna catch touchdowns from Rodgers. Why not him? Because it doesn't look like it's gonna be Watson, the rookie. And then check out the article on the website at fantasyknockout.com. I got the backup running backs to stash for this week there as well. Some players to sell high on. I'm off on David Montgomery this year out of Chicago. If you can find someone who thinks Monty will be the Bears starter, trade him immediately. Herbert totaled more yards on 8 fewer carries. Najee Harris of the Steelers, it's not good. He totaled 12 touches for 26 yards on a 59 snap share percent. He also is dealing with a foot injury that was lingering from camp. CeeDee Lamb of the Cowboys, I'm moving on from him. 11 targets with only 2 catches. Yikes, and he also lost Dak for a couple weeks, so try to sell him before it's too late. And then the last guy is Miles Sanders of the Eagles. He finally scored, which was good for Sanders. You would ask, why would we sell him? Well, let's capitalize on his production. But it still looks like the goal line work there is going to go to Gainwell and Boston Scott. And he only played a 52% snap share. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today. The next show is Week 2 Injury Report. Thank you for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe on whatever platform. Leave a rating and review. Really helps me out. All right. Till next time. See ya.